You paid $400 for a motorcycle service. The invoice looks clean. Brakes inspected, steering checked, coolant checked, chain adjusted, diagnostic scan clean. But most riders never ask what those check marks actually mean. Did somebody measure it, remove it, test it, and adjust it? Or did it just look normal enough to move on? By the end of this video, you will know which check marks are worth trusting, which ones need proof, and the exact questions to ask before the bike leaves the service bay. The first trap is the sheet itself. It looks official. Boxes, check marks, dealership logo at the top, but that sheet does not always tell you what procedure was done. Sometimes it only tells you what category was looked at. That difference matters. Dealership service runs on time. The manufacturer assigns a labor time to the job. The shop bills that time. The technician gets paid from that time. An annual service might be booked at 1.5 hours, whether it takes the technician 90 minutes or 25. That is flat rate labor. A good tech can still be thorough, plenty are, but the system rewards speed. It does not naturally reward extra time spent on invisible checks the customer never asked about and may never understand. And if you live anywhere with a real winter, April turns dealership service departments into triage. Harleys, Goldwings, ADV bikes, touring bikes, cruisers. Everybody wants the bike ready before the first long ride of the year. That is when the visible stuff survives. Oil change, service reset, tire pressure, quick scan. Anything that requires lifting the bike correctly, removing parts, measuring something, or documenting a reading is where the shortcut usually starts. That is why the first question is simple. And this is the part most riders forget. You can understand all of this while watching the video, but when you are standing at the service counter with the invoice in your hand, you will not remember every question. So I put the whole thing into the motorcycle service counter survival kit. The proof questions, the red flag answers, the pocket checklist, the worksheet, and the little record sheet you can use before the next bill gets printed. It is linked below. If you want it, it is there. I will not bring it up again. Can you show me the measurement, reading, or note from that check? If there is no measurement, no reading, and no note, you may have paid for a check mark. The diagnostic scan is the line item riders trust the most because it sounds the most advanced. Dealerships often charge between $50 and $150 to connect the bike to manufacturer diagnostic software. Honda has HDS, Yamaha has its diagnostic tool, Kawasaki has KIMS, Ducati has DDS. These are not cheap generic readers. They can access manufacturer codes, live sensor data, throttle values, charging faults, and stored history that basic scan tools may never see. That sounds thorough, but plugging in the tool is not the same thing as diagnosing the bike. On a routine service, the software may show stored codes, a low voltage code from a weak battery, a code from a winter jump start, a lean condition that showed up once and never came back, a sensor warning that happened for a few seconds and then disappeared. If there is no active fault, the log may simply get cleared instead of printed, saved, and explained. That does not mean the oxygen sensor was tested. It does not mean the charging system was checked under load. It does not mean throttle position values were reviewed. It only means the screen ended clean. And if the same warning light comes back 2 weeks later, the old clue is gone. Now the next technician starts from zero, and you may pay the diagnostic fee again. Before anything is cleared, ask for the fault code history. A good service advisor should be able to print it, email it, or at least explain what was stored. If they cannot produce anything, you do not know whether the scan was used for diagnosis or just to clear the screen. Steering head bearings are one of those checks that can pass on paper while the bike is still hiding the problem. Ask a service advisor what the steering head check involves, and you will often hear something like, "We wiggle the bars and check for play." That can catch a badly loose bearing. It does not catch everything. A real steering head bearing check means the front end has to be unloaded enough that the bars can move freely. You slowly turn the front end from lock to lock and feel for a subtle center notch. That notch is the wear point. The bike spends most of its life pointed straight ahead, so the bearing race can develop a small detent right in the middle. The rider may not notice it at first. He just feels the bike tracking strangely, resisting small corrections, or developing a little wobble at highway speed. A quick handlebar wiggle and a wheel clamp can miss that. The front tire may still be carrying weight. The lift clamp may still be holding the bike straight. The problem gets hidden by the setup. Steering head bearings are not usually expensive parts. The labor is the bill. By the time a notched bearing becomes obvious to the rider, the check may have been marked good for years. Before you leave the service counter, ask one thing. Was the steering checked with the front end unloaded or just checked for play? That question tells you a lot. Brakes are where a check mark can be technically true and still not tell you much. A brake pad inspection is usually quick. The technician shines a flashlight through the caliper, sees pad material above the wear indicator, and the box gets checked. That is not useless, but it is not a full brake inspection. On bikes with floating calipers, the slide pins matter. Those pins allow the caliper to move and apply pressure evenly across the pads. They live inside rubber boots. Those boots age. Grease dries out. Road grit gets in. And once the caliper stops floating cleanly, one pad can start wearing faster than the other. The rider does not always notice it right away. The brake still works, the lever still feels normal, but one side is doing more work than the other. By the time the uneven wear is obvious, you are replacing pads early. Sometimes the rotor has been running hotter than it should. Sometimes the fluid at that caliper has been cooked harder than the rest of the system. A proper slide pin service takes real time. The pins come out, the bores get cleaned, the right grease goes back in, the boots get checked. That is very different from looking at pad thickness through the caliper body. So when the invoice says brakes inspected, ask the service advisor, were the caliper pins removed, cleaned, and greased, or was this just a pad thickness check? If the answer becomes vague, you already know what kind of inspection it was. And if this is the first time you have heard any of this, subscribe before the next part. This channel is about the small details that save riders real money. Tire pressure looks too basic to mess up, which is exactly why nobody questions it. This is usually one of the checks that does get done. It takes less than a minute. No disassembly, no setup, no special judgment. But the number matters. The pressure stamped on the tire sidewall is not always the pressure your motorcycle should run. That sidewall number is the maximum cold inflation pressure the tire is rated for. The recommended operating pressure comes from the motorcycle manufacturer, usually in the owner manual or on the bike's label. On some bikes, those numbers match closely. On others, especially when you compare solo riding to loaded touring, they can differ by several psi. That difference changes the contact patch. It changes how the tire warms up. It changes how the bike feels under lean. It changes how the center of the tread wears compared to the shoulders. Most riders never open the manual. Some techs simply use the sidewall number because it is right there. That is not a conspiracy. It is a shortcut. But it can make a touring bike, cruiser, or sport tourer feel harsher, lighter, and less planted than the chassis was designed to feel. The question is simple. Were the tires set to the owner manual spec or the sidewall number? If the service advisor cannot answer, check it yourself before the next ride. Chain tension is another line item that can be guessed by feel or actually measured. Those are not the same thing. The correct chain slack procedure depends on the bike. Some manuals want the bike on the side stand, some specify a center stand, some give a specific suspension position. The point is not the stand. The point is that the slack has to be measured at the specified location with a ruler. What often happens is much simpler. The technician grabs the chain, pushes it up, and decides it feels fine. Experience helps, but feel is not a measurement. An under-tension chain can slap, wear sprockets faster, and create jerky power delivery. An over-tension chain can be worse. It loads the output shaft bearing and can restrict suspension movement as the swing arm travels through its arc. The rider feels the rear end getting harsh over square-edged bumps and blames the shock, the road, or the tire. The chain was just too tight. No special tool is required to catch it. Just the manual, the right bike position, and a ruler. Ask whether the chain was measured to spec or checked by feel. The answer matters more than the check mark. The air filter is where a 2-second visual inspection can miss the thing that matters. On many services, the air box gets opened, the filter gets a quick look, and if it is not visibly black, it passes. But the surface you can see does not always tell the whole story. Fine dust loads deep in the pleats. A filter can restrict airflow before it looks destroyed. And if the filter is not removed, you may never see the dirt packed where it actually matters. A restricted filter may not trigger a warning light. The ECU may compensate for some of it in normal riding, but it cannot make a dirty filter flow like a clean one. At higher load, the bike can still feel flat, restricted, or less efficient. The bigger miss is the sealing area. A filter that is not seated correctly, a cracked intake boot, or a loose clamp downstream of the filter can let unmetered air or dirt go where it should not. On a fuel-injected bike, the ECU may try to correct the fueling. On a carbureted bike, it may not correct anything. Either way, the inspection takes more than looking at the top of the filter. Ask whether the air filter was removed and inspected or just viewed in the air box. Ask whether the intake boots and clamps were checked. That is the difference between looked clean and actually inspected. Coolant is worse because level and condition are not the same thing. The service sheet may say coolant checked. Most riders think that means the coolant is healthy. Usually, it means the level in the overflow reservoir looked fine. That takes 5 seconds. Coolant condition is different. Motorcycle coolant contains corrosion inhibitors. Those inhibitors age. The coolant can still look clean and still lose protection. It can still sit at the right level and still be overdue by time. In aluminum-heavy engines, that matters. Old coolant can allow corrosion inside passages you cannot see. The water pump seal is often one of the first parts to complain. The rider does not connect that leak back to the service sheet because the sheet said coolant was checked. A real condition check can involve concentration, pH, or simply following the time-based replacement interval in the service manual. Some bikes call for 2 years, some are 3. Some vary by coolant type and model. The number that matters is the one in your manual, so ask it directly. Was coolant condition tested? Was it replaced by schedule? Or was only the reservoir level checked? Those are 3 different answers. Throttle body synchronization is one of those jobs that sounds small on paper and becomes annoying in the service bay. Many multi-cylinder bikes need the cylinders pulling evenly at idle and low throttle, within the tolerance listed in the service manual. When they drift apart, the bike can still run. It just does not run as cleanly as it should. The symptoms are easy to dismiss: slightly uneven idle, rough low-speed throttle, a little vibration during parking lot maneuvers. The rider blames fuel, weather, age, or the bike having character. Then he rides the same model after a proper sync and realizes his bike was not supposed to feel that way. The problem is setup time. Depending on the bike, a proper sync can require removing bodywork, lifting the tank, connecting a digital vacuum gauge or manometer, and keeping the engine running safely while adjustments are made. Sometimes the setup takes longer than the actual adjustment. That is why throttle body synchronization is usually not part of a basic general service, unless the schedule calls for it or the customer reports a symptom. If your multi-cylinder bike has become rough at idle or twitchy right off closed throttle, do not just ask if they checked it. Ask whether throttle body synchronization is part of the scheduled service for your model and whether it was actually performed. The oil change is the one thing most likely to be done because it is visible, fast, and easy to verify. The drain plug, filter, and fill point are accessible on most motorcycles. The procedure is familiar. It creates a clear invoice line. It gives the customer a sticker, a mileage note, and something he can check later. Skipping it creates an immediate comeback. That is why it survives the spring rush better than almost anything else. But that also explains the service gap. The oil change is visible, the steering bearing check is not. The brake slide pins are hidden, the coolant condition is invisible. The scan history disappears when it gets cleared. The chain tension looks fine until you measure it. That is the entire problem with trusting the sheet. The sheet tells you what was supposed to be checked. It does not prove how it was checked. Before you leave the counter, ask better questions. Ask for the fault code history before anything is cleared. Ask whether the caliper slide pins were removed, cleaned, and greased, or whether the brakes were only checked for pad thickness. Ask whether the steering head was checked with the front end unloaded. Ask whether tire pressures were set to the owner manual spec. Ask whether chain slack was measured with a ruler in the position your manual specifies. Ask whether the air filter was removed or just viewed from the top. Ask whether coolant condition was tested, replaced by schedule, or only checked for level. None of these questions require you to be a mechanic. They only require you to understand that a check mark is not a procedure. And the moment you start asking for measurements, readings, printouts, and notes, the whole conversation changes. A good shop will respect it, a lazy shop will hate it. Either way, you learn exactly what kind of service you are paying for. The sheet tells you what was supposed to happen. The answers at the counter tell you what actually did. So next time you get a clean invoice, do not just look at the check marks. Ask what was measured, ask what was removed, ask what was tested, because the difference between those answers is usually not felt at the counter. It shows up months later as a wobble, a warped rotor, a dead code, a leaking seal, or a repair bill nobody connects back to the service that already looked perfect. Tell me in the comments which line item your dealer has never been able to explain clearly.